We love. Now, this is the genuine attitude of Islam. Anyone who tells you anything otherwise about any sect, any faith, hasn't understood Islam. If you and I are truly to emulate Rasulullah or the Imam of our time, Salamullahi alayhima, this is how we need to mold ourselves. And it takes a long time to be able to do that. But when you arrive at that point, you will feel so free. There's no baggage on your shoulders. Anyone who I encounter, whether they misunderstood me, attacked me, or not, I long to make them better. And so in my given context of school, university, workplace, society, I would work hard in order to make that difference to my immediate context. Now, we're going to focus on just two narrations and then conclude. The first narration of Rasulullah when he announces his prophethood, and the wasiyah. What is a wasiyah? Testament. The wasiyah of Imam al-Askari alayhi salam, our last Imam before Ghaibah. So we're literally starting with the beginning and the end. And that famous statement is that if you imagine a speech where what you open with, what you end with, it should encompass everything that's in the middle. Correct? In the same way, I am giving to you the opening of Islam, of the 14, and the closing before Ghaibah. Can everybody read this okay? Rasulullah announces his Islam. He stands and he says, if I was to tell you that behind this mountain there is an army that would attack you, what would you say? He said, "O Muhammad, we find no one more truthful than you. If you tell us, we believe you." And he says, if that's the case, then know that there's only one God and I am the messenger of God. After a while, a few handful of people become Muslims. 1, 2, 3, 4. And he gathers them. And in order to spread Islam, in order to set the principal foundations of Islam, he gives them a narration. He says, Ya ayyuhan nas, O people. Now this narration is actually to everyone, but it's initially to his people that are Muslim, but it's to everyone as to how he wants them to live, everyone within Mecca. Ya ayyuhan nas, O people. Afshu as-salam. Greet people with the word of peace. Meaning, when you greet people, just greet them with the right salutation to engage them. Remember, this is to non-Muslims. He's saying to everyone, yes? But he's directing it to his followers as to how to deal, there's only 4 of them, 5 of them, how to deal with the mass population as a minority. Afshu as-salam. Greet people. Afford them the peace of salutation. وَأَطْعِمُ الطَّعَامِ. And feed people food. It's a very Khojatv thing to do, isn't it? Yes. Bring them biryani. وَأَطْعِمُ الطَّعَامِ. Sit with people, eat, partake with food. وَصِلُ الْأَرْحَامِ. Specifically, pray for your womb relatives. وَصَلُّوا بِاللَّيْلِ وَالنَّاسِ النِّيَامِ. And pray in the night whilst the rest of people are asleep. تَدْخُلُ الْجَنَّةِ بِالسَّلَامِ. And if you do that, you will enter into paradise in a state of peace. It's so simple. But look how he forms his discourse. Look how he shapes the mindset of people as to how he wants you to partake in society. The earliest Muslims, the first first hadith to the Muslims and to the mass Quraysh community. Greet each other well. You see, in our context, when we meet people, it is a hey, what's up, how's it going? That's fine. But it's the attitude that we take, and it's the way in which we want to engage. Even those people who are antagonizers. Think about your given scenario. You enter onto the train, the metro, amongst the muhajjabat, people who wear hijab, as an example, you have your beard. You enter onto the metro, and someone looks at you a little bit strange. What's that person doing here? It's Muslim. How are you going to respond? Inside, you may feel aggrieved. Inside, you may feel raged. Rasulullah said, Afshu as-salam. Meet people with peace. Flash a smile back. Sava. That's the extent of my French. I've learned something before I go away. Meet people. Think about this when you get challenged, and you will be challenged. When you leave here, something will happen to you. I promise you, in the next 3 days, work, school, university, metro, something will happen to you whereby someone may look at you strange, talk to you roughly. Are you prepared to respond with the right attitude? Afshu as-salam wa at'imu at-ta'am. Feed people. Eat with people. One of the best ways is just breaking bread. Inviting people to the center. Inviting people to your house. You know, one of the fundamentals that we do in order to create a good atmosphere, a good Muslim image, is on days of celebration, we come to work and we just hand out some small food. We'll buy some donuts, we'll get some sweets, we'll buy a cake, and we'll bring it into school, we'll bring it into work. Just because it will be a good thing to do. I'm in a happy place, I'm joyous. You share the birth of Christ with me. I love it, it's brilliant. Genuinely, in my house, I have a Christmas tree with lights. I'm not celebrating Jesus as the Son of God, but with my community, my local community, I'm celebrating the birth of Christ. Is there anything wrong with that? Do you celebrate the birth of Imam Hassan alayhi salam? Would you like them to celebrate the birth of Imam Hassan alayhi salam? Do you celebrate the birth of Rasulullah? Would you like them to celebrate the birth of Rasulullah? Why don't you celebrate the birth of Jesus Christ? Genuinely, how many here do that? We have a few, 3, 5. Right? 5 out of all of us. Now think about that in terms of the Muslim population. What did I say? That they try to scaremonger. They will reduce the argument to things like, she's in a scarf. Muslims don't want you to celebrate Christianity and Christmas because it impinges on them. You see those arguments in the newspapers. Muslims don't like lights being put up, the Christmas lights, because it's against them. It's not. I'll put it up for you. I will put up those lights for you to celebrate Jesus alayhi salam. And so, in your given context, as simple as on the birthday of Rasulullah and on Eid day, Wiladat Ali ibn Abi Talib, Wiladat Mahdi salamullahi alayhim ajma'een, go into work, go into school, go into university with a cake or some donuts, fresh. The last thing you want is to break that sentiment by giving them something that's moldy and out of date for 4 weeks.
Some pain au chocolat.
Yes, the best. Yes, absolutely, the best. Give it to them, and when they ask, just simple. Today is the birth anniversary of our Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him and his family. Today is the birth of Moses, peace and blessings. Today is the birth of Jesus Christ in our calendar. I want to share it with you. That's enough. Khalas. Don't say any more. Don't say a word. If they want to inquire, let them inquire. If they have a question, let them question. Wasil al-Arham. Yes. Who were the most in opposition to Rasulullah? His family, his uncle. And what does he say? Pray for them, pray with them, partake with them. Now this is important. We're going to come to this now in the next statement. Yes? Wasil al-Arham. Now, last hadith and then I finish. جاء في وصية للإمام أبي محمد حسن العسكري لشيعته. You can write this translation down. This is what comes or came as the testament, the wasiyah, the will. You know when you write a will, it's so important to you, isn't it? Because that's what you're leaving for your family to follow your instructions. Now our 11th Imam writes his wasiyah لِشِيعَتِهِ, to his Shia. Imagine, he's writing something to tell you he's about to go into, the 12th Imam is about to go into Ghaibah. You're not going to see him for hundreds of years. Let me write something for my Shia to practice in their given time. I can't give you any more emphasis than that. I can't. It's the last words. أوصيكم بالتقوى. I call you towards God consciousness, being God-centric. I'm waiting for people to write this. أوصيكم بالتقوى. I call you towards God consciousness. والورع, and piety. في دينكم, in your way of life. I call you towards God consciousness and piety in the ways of your life. It's going to get very interesting in a second. وَالْجِهَادُ لِلَّهِ, and struggling for the sake of God, jihad al-akbar. وَالصِّدْقِ الْحَدِيثِ, and truthful speech. وَأَدَاءَ الْأَمَانَةِ, and giving back what is entrusted to you. إِلَى مَنْ أَتِمَّنِكُمْ مِنْ بِرِّ أَوْ فَاجِرٍ, whether the person is good or absolute evil. Give back the trusts to people, whether they be good or utmost evil. What trusts does the French society, good or bad, place upon you? I want you to think about that question. The amana of living here, being welcomed into a country, partaking as a citizen, having rights. What is the amana? What is that trust that they give to you, that you have to return back to them, irrespective if they're from the National Front, Jean-Marie Le Pen, yes, or otherwise? Berlin, Fajr. Here, beautiful. وَطُولَ السُّجُودِ, and extend your sajdas, your prostrations. Make them long. طويل, طول. وَحُسْنُ الْجَوَارِ, and goodness to your neighbors. I'm going to ask you a question. How many neighbors either side are you supposed to know and do goodness for in Islam? Is it 20 this way, 20 that way? It's 40 this way, 40 that way. I ask you a question. Of those 40 neighbors of this Imam Barqa, this Husayniyya, what is your level of contact with your neighbors? Is that 6 or 0? 0. I'm going to leave this in your hands. فَبِهَذَا جَاءَ مُحَمَّدٍ. And that is what Rasulullah brought. Now it gets so interesting. Now this last bit is the focus. This last bit is the kicker. Everybody up to date with their writing? Everybody happy for me to move on? This.
Can you start from the beginning, please?
Yes, absolutely. جاء في وصية الإمام محمد الحسن العسكري لشيعته. What came in the history books for the wasiyah to his Shia. أوصيكم بالتقوى, have taqwa. والورع, and piety في دينكم, in your way of life. والاجتهاد الله, and struggle, the way of God. وصدق الحديث, truthful speech. وأداء الأمانة, and returning the trust. إلى من ائتمنكم من بغل أو فاجر. Return them back whether the person is pious or utmost evil. وَطُولَ السُّجُودِ, extend your prostrations. وَحُسْنُ الْجَوَارِ, and do good to the neighbors. فَبِهَذَا جَاءَ مُحَمَّدٍ, because this is what Rasulullah brought. Everybody with me? This last bit, so important. صَلُّوا فِي أَشَاعِرَهُمْ, and pray with them. Now, who is them in that given context? Who is them?
The book?
No.
Followers of the book?
No. Remember, Imam Hassan Askari was where? Which city? Samarkand. He is telling his Shia, Sallu fi asha'irahum, pray with them. Who is them? Not just that, the people who have captured him. The people who are Banu Abbas. The people who follow Al-Mutawakkil Al-Abbasi, Al-Mu'tamid Al-Abbasi, Harun al-Rashid Al-Abbasi, Ma'mun al-Rashid Al-Abbasi. Sallu fi asha'irahum, pray with them. SubhanAllah. He's telling them, your Shia, you pray with others. Engage in their prayer jama'ats. How many people here pray with the Sunni? Regularly. Go to their mosques. Partake with them. Pray with them in university and campus. Can you see? But he is giving us the basis of how we're supposed to be. Now, in our context, am I allowed to go and pray in a church? I'm not talking about our formalized prayer. Am I allowed to go into a church and pray?
Of course.
Am I allowed to go into a synagogue and pray? Sallu fi asha'irahum. Pray with them. There is no restriction jurisprudentially for you. You can't go to a mandir, it is said in our books of fiqh, and I'm not mujtahid, so I can't change a rule. I'm saying to you.
You can't go to Parsi fire temple either.
Right. Into a?
Parsi fire temple.
I don't know what Parsi fire temple is.
The worship, the place they worship in. Like no non-Muslims can enter a mosque, can they, to pray? Can we?
No, not into a masjid, in the
Masjid.
area of a masjid.
Yeah, so you can't enter that.
Into a...
Non-Muslims cannot enter a...
We're saying go out. He's saying
Uh-huh.
go out.
Yeah.
Pray with them. Don't live inside your little box. Sallu fi asha'irahum. But remember, he's saying it at a time of utmost oppression. We're talking about the people who imprisoned your 11th Imam. You know the stories better than I do, the level of oppression amongst the Shia. What was the stories? You know the hadith say in Banu Abbas's time, they used to take the Shia and place them inside the walls as filler, so that it wasn't hollow, so that it would be a pillar and hold up the roofs. This is what the hadith say. They would say that the caliph would give the sword to an individual and say, go into that room. There's 100 of the descendants of Ali bin Abi Talib, kill them all now. And in the history books, the man said, I hesitated, but I had to do it. And I went and I killed all of them, all of the Alawiyya. And I came out. He says there are men, women and children. Just like Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi is doing today, and you see it with your own eyes, it happened at the time of Banu Abbas. What does the 11th Imam tell his Shia? لِشِيعَتِهِ, to his Shia, صَلُّوا فِي أَشَاعِرِهُمْ. I'm going to come to the why in a minute. وَاشْهَدُوا جَنَائِزَهُمْ, and witness, partake in their funeral ceremonies. How many people here regularly go to one of their Sunni counterparts' janazah? Because we don't know any Sunnis.
Yes.
That's the point. That's how I'm making the point. Do we go to our friends, the Christian and Jews, to their funeral ceremonies?
Yes.
Right, you see. Why would we do this? There's a reason for it. وَاشْهَدُوا جَنَائِزَهُمْ وَعَوْدُوا مَرْضَاهُمْ, and visit their sick people. وَآدُوا حُقُوقَهُمْ, and return back to them their rights. This hasn't come on the entire slide. I need to... Good luck with this. Excellent. صلوا في أشاعرهم واشهدوا جنائزهم وعودوا مرضاهم وعودوا حقوقهم. Yes, were you with me?
Return them back there.
فإن الرجل منكم إذا ورع في دينه, and if the person from amongst you has piety in his religion, والصدق في حديثه, and truthfulness in his speech, وأداء الأمانة, and returns his amana, وحسن خلقه, and okay, sorry. Okay. No, my fault. فإن رجل منكم, if a person from amongst you, إذا ورع في دينه, if he does have goodness in his religion, وصدق في حديثه, and truthfulness in his speech, وَأَدَى الْأَمَانَةِ, and he returns his rights, trusts, thank you. وَأَدَى الْأَمَانَةِ وَحُسْنُ خَلْقِهِ, and is good in his etiquettes, akhlaq. مَعَ النَّاسِ, with the people. Here it is. Here is the line. What are we all doing here this weekend? What's the purpose? To learn what? How to explain Islam to others. What does he say? If a person is good in his life, truthful in his speech, returns the amanat, has good akhlaq with people, qila هذا شيعي, he will be known as a Shia of Hasan al-Askari. That's the purpose. It would make me happy. اتقوا الله, God consciousness. وَكُونُوا زِينًا وَلَا تَكُونُوا شِينًا, be for us a beautification, not an embarrassment. Wow. Don't embarrass me, the Imam says. I'm telling you to go and pray with them. Don't embarrass me by don't doing it. I'm telling you to go visit their sick. Don't embarrass me by don't doing it. I'm telling you, like the Prophet said, وَأَطْعِمُوا الطَّعَامَ, eat with them. Don't embarrass me by not doing it. قِيلَ هَذَا الشِّيعِ, it is said that he will be my Shia. And so, there is clear reciprocation, link between the first hadith of Islam and the last hadith of the Imams. before ghaiba, telling us the way in which we should be acting.